Okay, this is 8.1 formative quiz. Correct your own sheet. I'm going to tell you how much each question is worth. You can self-assess, give yourself a mark, and I'll take in your marks at the end of the assessment. I will not put them in the computer, so please make sure you're being honest with me so I know how well you're doing. The first question says 5x is equal to 2/3. So the first thing we're going to do is divide both, oh, that's not the right marker. Divide both sides by 5. And when we do so, we want to make sure we show it like that. That's opposite operation, leaving you with x. And 2/3 divided by 5 is the same thing as when you think of the whole number as being over 1. To get the answer, you can take 2/3 and multiply by the reciprocal to get the same answer, which means x equals 2/15. Second question, a tenth of x is equal to 1/8. We're going to multiply both sides by 10. Opposite operation, leaving you with x. This is going to be 10 over 8, which is equal to 1 2/8, which is equal to 1 1/4 in lowest terms. Question 3. The only difference here is your variable is on the right-hand side instead of the left, so we're going to divide both sides by 1 1/2. And 2/5 divided by 1 1/2. Now, please don't write it like this. Don't write it like that, because 1/2 divided by 2/5 is not the same thing. It is 2/5 if you're dividing it by 1 1/2. So keep your first fraction. Since 2/5, or since 1 1/2 is really the same thing as 3 over 2, we're going to multiply it by the reciprocal, which is going to give us 4/15 is equal to x. Question 4, divide both sides by the coefficient. Now, because it's negative, you still have to divide both sides by negative 1 3/4. Divide by negative 1 3/4. Now, when you get to division of mixed fractions, change them both to improper. So it's going to be a negative 11/5 divided by negative 7/5. Notice how I'm keeping the negative symbol in the numerator. No matter what your number is, even when we use the reciprocal, keep it there. Keep your first fraction. Change to multiplication by the reciprocal. Still keeping my negative sign in my numerator. And cross reduce if possible. So this is going to be a negative 1 over 1, which is going to leave me with 11 over 7, a positive 11 over 7, because when you multiply negative 11 by negative 1, you get a positive 11. So positive 11 over 7, which equals 1, and 4/7 equals x. Oops, I made a mistake. It should be 7 over 4, not 5. Let's do this all again. Oopsie daisy. Pretend I didn't do that. So 4 goes there. It's 7 over 4. Negative 11/5 multiplied by the reciprocal, which is this. There is no cross reduction. So therefore, you have positive 44 over 35. So x equals positive 44 over 35, or 1 9/35. Is that right? Okay. Question 5 says negative 1.2x equals 2.412. These are really easy because they really don't involve much different operations than we would have in grade 8. X equals whatever 2.412, excuse me, divided by the coefficient of 1.2. Now, it is a negative, so I'm not going to worry about it. If you want to put it in, if you're not real great at integers, you could put it in to remind yourself that a positive divided by a negative is a negative, but you don't need to. Negative 2.01 is your answer. Question 6, again, simple. Just multiply both sides by 1.8. 0 pair, x is left. The product of 2.75, if you want to put the negative symbol, go for it. Multiplied by 1.8 equals a negative 4.95. Dividing both sides by the coefficient. Now, some people who make mistakes will divide both sides by negative 3.15, but keep in mind the variable is on the right, and you want to isolate the variable by getting rid of its coefficient. So 2.25, x will equal 3.15 divided by the coefficient of 2.25, x equals 1.4. And your last regular question is actually a two-step algebraic question, so I'm going to move it down here and just make it a little bit bigger. It actually requires two steps. So this time, x is in your denominator. So the first thing we're going to do in these questions when x is in your denominator is I'm going to multiply both sides by x. And I know it seems weird, but that's going to create an opposite operation here, leaving me with 10.2. And on the other side, the product of 2.25 and x is just going to be a coefficient of 2.25. That's step one. Step two is to be dividing both sides by the coefficient, leaving me with x equals 10.2 divided by 2.25 equals 4.53 repeating. That's 3 repeated, so the 3 has a little line above it, bar notation. 4.53 repeating is the value of x. Question number 9 says a shirt is discounted 15%, is now on sale for $24.14. What was the original price? So the first thing you want to do is define your variable, and the easiest way to do that is typically in your question. What was the original price? Since we're looking for the original price, 99.9% of the time, we can define our variable around what the question is, the original price. So the first thing you do is define the variable, and that's very important. Now the second thing you need to do is write an algebraic equation. But before we do that, in order to get my head around what's going on here, it's always important to draw a picture. So I'm going to draw a picture, and this is going to represent the regular price of the shirt. Or the original price. The original price. So it's discounted 15%. I'm going to cut it down here. I'm going to write down 15%, and I'm going to put an arrow away to say that that's a discount of 15%. And this right here, the lines that I'm drawing, that is going to represent the cost of the sale price. Because once you take 15% off, you are going to have the sale price, which means that you're really only paying for, as Cole will tell you, 85% of the shirt. Right? So the second step to help you get your equation is to write a written sentence. 85% of the original price is $24.14, or the sale price. Because we know that because it told us that the sale price is going to be $24.14. So once we write that sentence, we need to translate it. 85%, for those of you who forget, is 85 over 100, which is 85 hundredths, which is written as 0.85. So 85% is 0.85 as a decimal. Of means multiplication. So I could put a multiplication sign there, multiplied by the original price, which is x. But multiplying by x is a coefficients job. So we can just put 0.85x, which means 0.85 multiplied by x, which is the original price, because we defined it here, is equals, then 24.14 is your equivalent value. Once we have that, isolate the variable by dividing both sides by the coefficient. And x will equal 24.14 divided by the coefficient. That'll equal 28.4 or $28.40. Now you're not done. The last thing you should do is write a sentence with therefore. Therefore, the original price was $28.40. And your last question is just a formula question and should be fairly easy because there's not a lot of thought. Because the formula for density D is D equals M over V, where M equals the mass and V equals the volume. If gold has a density of that and a volume of that, what is the mass? So if I was to substitute, write down my formula first. The first thing you're going to do is write down your formula. and substitute everything you know. So density is 19.32. That's your D. Your V is 1.2. And your mass is unknown because that's what we're looking for. What is the mass? So we've created this algebraic equation, which is really simple to solve. You simply have to multiply both sides by 1.2, and m will equal the product of 19.32. 19.32 multiplied by 1.2, 23.184. Now we're not done yet because we haven't solved it, but now we have to say, therefore, the mass of the gold is 24.184, and I have to say, what units is that, right? What units would the mass be? What's mass measured in? Centimeters cubed or grams?